All right. Hey, everybody, and welcome so much to another exciting hotel business hot topic virtual panel series. I'm your host, Glenn Haussman, and I'm here on location in another city doing this outside my office. Really excited to be here today because we're going to be getting to some of the issues that all of you out there need to get a better understanding of so we can all find great success as we continue to move forward in a rapidly changing hospitality environment. I'm Glenn Haussman, of course, host of No Vacancy News, and I love working with my friends over at Hotel Business Magazine. So today we're going to be talking about how hospitality is evolving and how guest spend doesn't stop at that hotel room, right? So for all of you out there, if you have the right mobile tools, then you're able to turn everyday interactions into high volume moments, right? So we have to figure all of this out. I'm out there on the road preaching all the time, and we need to stop thinking about things as a RevPAR mindset and start thinking about the overall value per customer. Because you could get a great room rate per se, but it's the individual spend on property that makes the most. So for the next hour, we're going to have a great conversation. Hopefully, we'll all learn things that we didn't think of before from more of a high level type of point of view. I also want to know that all of you out there, you've got so many great questions, I'm sure. Please ask them. Our experts here are going to be able to answer them for you in real time. Plus, Hotel Business Magazine will be covering this in the August issue of Hotel Business. It'll be online at hotelbusiness.com and, of course, on social media, LinkedIn and X and all of those kinds of stuff. I'm also recording it. It'll be available on demand and as an audio podcast on the No Vacancy Network. I also want to thank our friends over at Phunware for sponsoring today's panel discussion. So let's get into it. We have got a great group with us today, and one of our folks is seemingly having a little computer problems, and as soon as that meltdown is unmelted, she will be joining us. So for right now, we've got Mr. Rob Smith, CEO and President of Stonebridge, Mr. Chris Trick, Chief Marketing and Performance Officer with Sonesta Hotels and Resorts, Angela Berkey, Senior Director of Reservation Sales and CRM with Coral Tree, and Donnie Nufus, Senior Director Business Development with Phunware. How are you guys doing today? It's so great to see all of you.
Great to see you, Glenn.
Awesome to be here.
Great to see you. All right, so Chris, since you jumped in first with the great to see me, I think you're getting the first question over here today. How are you thinking about this technological revolution and how it's going to help you get a little bit closer to that guest?
Well, you know, when we think about how we engage with our guests and we think about the tech stack, you know, it's an area that continues to evolve. And, you know, certainly today, our mobile devices are center stage. Our phones have become the remote control for our lives, and it's how people engage, you know, the online world with the offline world. And it's certainly how our guests engage with us. You know, for our guests, it's really about convenience and control. It enables that connection with the brands, you know, throughout the stages of their journey. And, you know, it sort of helps formulate that personal relationship with the guest. So,
and I think that's really what's most important is that personal relationship with the guest, right?
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, you think about the tech stack and you think about mobile and what it can do to build that relationship. You know, really, we all have hundreds of apps and they all fundamentally do the same thing, but no two user experiences are the same because really the power of the product is in the personalization.
That's
And
right.
it's informed by data and what we know and how we can feed it relevant data about our guest. And
Yeah.
that enables that personalization.
Absolutely. Angela, you got CRM in your title. You're all about getting closer to the guests. What is top of mind for you today?
I mean, I think when we consider technology, it's a one component of that guest interaction. We don't see, you know, at Coral Tree, we don't see it as replacing that guest connection. We're using it to enhance it. So, you know, we get the information, we get the data, we take that data, put it into our CRM, and now we can have more meaningful conversations, more curated discussions, more curated sales and itineraries than we ever could before. So it's really, we see it as enhancing that, not in place of.
Speaking of curating, Jennifer Barnwell, President of Curator, has joined us after a little technological meltdown. Jen, we are relieved that technology has not kept you from us today. So thank you so much for joining. And what do you got going on in the background over there? That's pretty awesome.
It is a photo from years ago when I was at an independent conference and we were on a walking tour through Austin. And wonderful place that made all this, these neon signs and arts. And I never know what's going to pop up behind me in Zoom. So this is kind of fun.
Awesome. So Rob, how are you thinking about this issue, sir?
Well, Glenn, thanks for having me today. It's great to see everybody. You know, I think as hospitality, we're a little bit behind in other industries. If you look at banking, Glenn, you know, they're way ahead on mobile, and with cookies potentially going away in the next 24 months, you know, opt-in apps is where it's going to be at. I think Marriott is leading the charge right now, and they're being very thoughtful in making sure that at every step of engagement, the customer is more than encouraged to get engaged with the app. In fact, many of the in-room amenities like automatic blinds or ordering room service now, you have to do it with the apps, or people are being forced into it. So, you know, as the cookies go away, that data is going to be so important. And as someone mentioned earlier, you know, the phone is the one thing that you're with 24/7.
Right.
And with GPS now, that's the way to track every person on the planet, is just follow their phone, and that's where you'll get them. So I think it's an exciting time. I think if we follow the banking industry, I think, you know, Hilton's doing a good job too, but clearly, in my opinion, Marriott's at the forefront. There's going to be a time, I believe, that Bonvoy is even more valuable than Marriott itself, and I think the app's going to lead the way.
Wow. That is really surprising to hear. So Jennifer, before we go to Donnie, do you have that same opinion?
Yeah, I was thinking of it more in a broader sense. So, I don't know how far back you want to go, but
I was hoping to go back to the age of the dinosaurs, because they were great with technology.
there's not really any gatekeepers of information anymore, right? It's like, travel agents, res agents, guidebooks back in the day, but there's so much transparency now, so many places to find information, Google searches, AI agents, OTAs, the property websites, the brand websites, social. A real live person isn't necessarily even part of, the travel searches or actually booking your accommodations anymore at all. We've certainly seen that in the airlines. Not that, the airlines are this, beacon of great hospitality these days anymore, but when I travel, when I'm booking a flight or doing everything, I don't even interact with anyone, and booking the flight and securing it and checking in. And I just do my QR code when I get on, and I barely interact with the flight attendant. So
Yep.
I agree with what Rob was saying. Like, everyone's on their phone nonstop. That's where they are. You could say we're addicted to it, but it's instant gratification. You find everything you want to do. You do what you want to do based on what you've seen on your phone, and patience may be at an all-time low as well, because you can do all this stuff for yourself these days. So I mean, it's an overused phrase, but also part of it is meet people where they are, and we use that, overuse it in all different ways. But where are the personal interaction points? Maybe they're dwindling a little bit depending on your guest, and choice is paramount. But do you want to offer? Do people want to check in with the person at the front desk, or do they want to do all the mobile ways? But did they want to text their guest requests rather than having to pick up the phone? The QR codes for in-room dining, I love them. For cashless tipping, I love them. But offer them so that the guests have choice. But that's really where the guest engagement is going, I think.
I think that you make a great point there, Jennifer. And me, as a guest, I behave differently depending on the hotel I'm in, the situation that I'm in. And sometimes I crave that personal touch. And sometimes I don't want any human interactions whatsoever. But Donnie, I want to get to you. Maybe share a little bit about what you folks are doing at Phunware, and thinking about these issues that are coming up every single day in our business.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've been working in mobile for 16 years. Matter of fact, we were the back in the day, we were the people who were making the first NFL apps and CBS apps and all that. So these big, entertainment marquees. Yeah. And we came from that space. Over time, we started seeing the adoption and a lot of people taking mobile in-house in these other industries we're working in. One thing that was really interesting to us was obviously the individual's interaction with the mobile device, and more importantly, being able to start seeing behavior, starting to see patterns, starting to see inferences of what that person was interested in. It's no different from what is happening, what's been happening forever at Amazon. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to Amazon to buy one thing, and when I check out, there are 5 more things in my cart that I didn't know that I wanted, right? And that I'm happy to buy. So as we started getting into the hospitality space,
I know, Donnie, just so you know, Jeff Bezos's boat, I hear, is called the Nufus. So
yes, yeah. Oh, I believe that. Yes, I believe that. But one of the things that we also do is we also work with basically wayfinding and navigation. So it becomes incredibly interesting when you start taking data of where people are and then how they're interacting at those places at those times, right? I think one of the most exciting things, even though people are probably sick of hearing it, but one of the most exciting things that we're going to start unlocking with things like artificial intelligence is being able to take large, complicated data sets and start seeing things that we didn't see before.
Right.
That ultimately translate into this hyper personalization we were talking about. So we at Phunware, we have been really thinking about the guest and what does that guest want, but not only what do they want, but the right time, the right place to deliver that message.
Dude, that is the toughest thing right there, because you've got to get in my brain. Now, we all know that companies like Amazon have seemingly done that already, right? You think of something and it just conjures it up online. But Angela, how are you going to get to a place where you don't offer me golf packages because I don't play golf? And I always say this, but the hospitality companies have been offering me this for my entire adult life, when they should know I like sushi, beer, and concerts, you know?
That's exactly right. So, I am not a golfer, so I identify with you on that. Glad. Bye. Really, it's really our operations team, our reservation teams, understanding, having personalized conversations with guests, putting those preferences in the system, and then that gets uploaded to our CRM, right? And then on top of that, we can also track transactions, where our guests are spending the money. Down to, like, for example, spa, we can go all the way down to what type of spa treatment. And that all gets fed into the CRM. So now, talk about delivering the right message to the right guest at the right time. We're doing just that. Now it's not just looking at what zip code you live in and what your persona is, but taking that and saying, oh, you like spa. I'm going to deliver spa forward communications, offers, messages to you to engage you. And it's even beyond just that, right? I mean, just, do you want feather pillows in your room? Every time you check into one of our hotels, you want feather pillows. So we're just going to provide that now versus you having to request it. That's
great. I like that, Angela. And I appreciate you knowing I like feather pillows over the I think we're already making great breakthroughs.
Well, you're not a golfer, so, it goes hand in hand, I guess. I don't know.
Yes, Chris, I was actually...
Angela, you can send the golf packages my way.
I will. I got you down.
I'll book the next one. But Glenn, Angela makes a really good point, and so does Donnie. It really starts with data and kind of that depth of understanding of consumer preferences. Whether you're shopping online at Amazon, they know your shopping preferences and the things that you're interested in. And the same thing goes for hospitality, and how we aggregate that depth of information, whether it's through, we use the CRM as the vehicle, but you can aggregate it through, your transaction data, your loyalty data, your PM system, your point of sale system. All of those guest interactions and touch points are an opportunity to start to frame out a deeper understanding of your guest and then deliver that personalized message or that personalized offer. So again, for me, Angela knows that I'm a golfer, so I expect to see the next, stay and play package next week.
We'd love to post you, Chris. We have several properties that we can.
Oh, that'd be great.
All right, so Rob, what is this looking like for you, practically speaking? Are you thinking of the same thing? And let me also ask, are you approaching customers differently prior to their stay versus when they happen to be on property?
I don't know that we're approaching them differently prior to the stay, with the exception of maybe our resorts and
Yeah.
heavy leisure properties. But it goes back to it's all going to be about the app. And if you once again look at the banking world, it's about keeping them in the ecosystem so that you own every step of their lifestyle, whether it's Amazon now tying in, starting with books, going to merchandise, going to movies, going to booking vacations and hotel rooms. The longer they keep them in the ecosystem, the more they learn about the person, so
Yep.
that you know the who, what, where, and when to go after. What we're doing is trying to find more and more ways to make, in my opinion, apps like Uber and Amazon. The number one reason they became successful is the ease of transaction. Right? People don't have to go back in, put their credit card. It's very easy to buy. That's why you buy 5 things instead of 1 when you go there. But so we're trying to find ways. We have a lot in our smaller properties where we have meeting space. You book the room on a QR code. You walk up,
Wow.
you click it, you book the room. You don't even have to see a person. It pops up. What do you want to eat? Is there anything we can do? And eventually, I think that's going to go for walk-ins on guests as well. We've been a lot slower to adapt that. I think only 6 or 7% of our guests do mobile check-in. So we're still far away from really tying in completely that mobile app, but I think that it's coming quick.
It is coming quick, and let me add, I think part of the problem with the adoption is the technology wasn't quite right in place, and I think people tried it and had a negative experience. I know I did,
Yeah.
but this new technology that's coming on where you don't need the app and you can just tap your phone, bam, that's a game changer. And I think we're going to see much higher adoption rates for this technology, which I think will start to carry over into creating other tech first habits in the first place. Right?
Absolutely. I mean, originally they could only they could only have one key on one phone. So if there's more than one person in the room,
Right.
now you're forced to get hard keys. They've now changed that. Also in the app, if you're checking in Chicago and somebody is within your account back home in Florida, they're going to know you're checking in Florida. A lot of and people don't want to know that either. So there's a lot of things that I think the system is working through, but we are getting there, and we're starting to see more and more usage. And I like the fact that the brands are, almost forcing people into it. For them to take advantage full of the service at the property, they have to get into the app. And I think that's, I look back on airline travel, and I've been traveling for, many, many years, but for a long time, I would not break that code and go to my phone because I wanted to go charm the person at the desk to get an upgrade.
That's right.
And I finally broke through to the kiosk, and the kiosk was a mediary to my phone, and now I only use my phone. So I do believe it's coming quickly. Part of it is generational, as we have new customers that are more used to it, but part of it is even the other generations that are fighting it are getting on board.
Yeah, that's true. And we've got some great questions coming in right now, and I'd like to get to those. But first, Jennifer, if you want to add anything to this, I don't want to leave you out on this part of the
Yeah,
conversation.
I think I would just add, you know, the curator collection. I mean, we're really a grouping of, smaller independents and boutiques. So from my perspective, I totally agree completely with what Angela and Chris was saying about the information. Most of our properties have CRMs. Do we use them effectively? No, there's always room for improvement because, there's so many capabilities to unlock. But I think maybe even a little bit goes a long way. So we just got to speed that up. I mean, I can tell you multiple times checking into a property where I've stayed before, and I don't know if they're just like buying time. They're like, "Oh, have you been here before?" And it's just like, that's such a bad memory. Like, don't even ask me the question because I know it's right in that computer screen you're looking at. So
Right.
there's so much to unlock in a CRM. It's so valuable. And I think even little small recognitions can go a long way and be memorable, especially in our independent boutique space, because we're trying so hard. We're definitely not a commodity. We don't want to go in that direction. So ask some questions. to your guests when they show up in front of you. Really stress to your team that it's so important to put as much guest information as in those CRMs as you possibly can. But at the end of the day, we need to act on it and make it a priority with the training and with your teams, like nonstop training on that, because I do think it makes a big difference.
Yeah, that you're absolutely right about that. I love that you're bringing up this particular point and mentioning that C word there, commodity, because one of the greatest fears I have is that we become commoditized if we lean into technology in the wrong way and remove that human element from the equation. So no matter what we do going forward, we have to make sure that technology enables people to be closer to people so we could win them over. I love all the nodding heads from you guys. We got all these amazing questions. So let's go for one of these.
Glenn, if I could
Yeah.
just weigh in on that, Rob, because, we've been trying to get the agents to put the information in the systems for 10 years, right? And when you're checking people in, that becomes secondary. This, in my opinion, when these apps are fully adapted, coupled with AI aggregating their information, they're not going to have to tell us what they like because we're going to know more than they know, right? We're by their buying patterns and how much they spend, we're going to know who to target. We're going to know, all the things that really only upper echelons like Amazon and certain folks that have access to data that we don't today. That access is going to be more freely distributed. And we're going to know what the consumer wants when they get in without having to ask them a single question. And that's where it's going.
Yeah, it makes sense. All right, Rob, I do want to get to these questions, but Chris, go for it.
I was going to say, Rob, don't you love it when brands get it? But not just hospitality brands, but other brands, when they get it and they understand you and your preferences.
It's and even before you know it, I never told you I wanted to be an X, but somehow, you got it. It's the same way that when you're on Facebook or something, all of a sudden things are coming in front of you that you were looking at on Amazon or whatever. That's where it's going to get to in our industry, and it's not that far away.
Yeah, Donnie, before we get to these questions, I got to go back to you on this one because it seems like you've got a lot of thoughts on this. Plus, maybe, how do you think agentic AI perhaps is going to change that? And that's the whole idea of agents going out and doing a lot more stuff for you than you having to physically do that. That's not for you, Donnie. That's for people who may not know. Go for it.
Yeah, well, I want to say all of you have really touched on some really important points. The human element, you can't remove that.
Right.
As a matter of fact, that you don't want to replace. Instead, what you want to do is you want to enhance the human element. To your point, when you walk up, they say, "Hello, Mr. Nufus, so great that you're back here again. By the way, we know that you usually like have a bottle of water in your room that's already waiting for you." Like, that is what it's going to do, where you're going to feel seen. You're going to have these moments of surprise and delight. And I think the other part here that we got to focus on is the more you can make it frictionless for the individual guest, where it's just a smooth experience from, going to the restaurant to going to the spa, all of those things, the more and more you're just naturally going to build that loyalty. And the data is everything with that. To Rob's point, a lot of these tools were only available to the upper echelon. But the great thing is the technology has gotten more readily available. It's gotten more cheaper. It's gotten easier to deploy. And now more and more brands, especially in hospitality, are going to have access to this. They have access to it right now. I'll just give you an antidote. One of our customers with one use case pays for our mobile app every year. And what it is
Wow.
everybody is sitting around the pool, and at 2:00, there's a little bot that looks at all the available cabanas that are available at the property. And at 2:00, only the people sitting around the pool get a message saying, "Hey, cabanas are 25% off now. Would you like to book one?"
Oh.
And to your point, making it easy, they click a button and they book it. And that's it.
And it just goes right to their guest folio, period.
And it makes it simple, right? Because here's the thing, like when I'm on vacation or when I'm at a resort, I will happily transact if it's exactly what I want at that moment, right? I will gladly, and I will feel good about it. And I think that's the other thing too, is that we want to serve up those opportunities for people to purchase something and feel good about it. Like, this is great. I get to have this spa service. I get to have these, and that's really what we're trying to do with this data, and also give the staff more time to be able to give them a better guest experience because they already have all the information they need, or things were just already taken care of for them, allowing them to focus more on that guest, right?
Yeah, totally. And I swear, I promise this time we'll get to the questions next. But Jennifer, you're smiling over there. And I noticed you said it when he said, feel good about spend. And I think that's really where we are, particularly with the way we are right here in the United States economy when people are pulling back on spending. If you connect with them emotionally, Jennifer, I think that's when you really get them to feel good about their spend. Am I right about that?
Yeah, you're definitely right about that. I mean, when Donnie was talking, I was just thinking about, you know, obviously our conversation is about guest engagement, personalization, and tech, and all those good things. And I'm just thinking about how great it would be in terms of upsells and serving up offers, to the right person at the right time. There's so many things to unlock incrementally at a property. Sounds like Phunware is on top of that, but it's like, think about if you have a spa and there's like a bunch of availability, you can serve up to everyone who's in house that, with the appropriate length of stay or maybe the guest profile. If you have availability, try to get more spa appointments booked if your spa's half empty, or even, be more tailored about the room upgrades. So, if someone feels good about it, like if I'm kind of checking in and I didn't, spend that extra money when I was booking because the next room type was a lot more expensive, but instead of it sitting empty, offer it to this person in front of you for half of what you were offering before. Or maybe you don't have any reservations for lunch or dinner, just on the spot, offer a $10 F&B credit or something if they come down for happy hour or breakfast or lunch that day. So that's what I'm smiling because that's what I'm like thinking about and so excited about being able to execute on.
And this is what I really hope for, because you all know you're having trouble pushing those rates. But if you get people to willingly spend on things in a frictionless environment that makes their lives better, then you're all going to have more success out there. So finally, one of the questions from you folks out there: how does your property measure ROI from ancillary revenue initiatives or upselling programs? Angela, I feel like this one's tailored for you.
Well, it's a big question, a really great question. We look at overall, obviously, the expense of whatever the platform is. So what our overall revenue is, and it is total revenue spend, right? So we're looking down to the ancillary level, to really ascertain if that's, a return for us. So, but that's the money part. I think the other part, talking about human connection, is, are guests satisfied? What are our guest satisfaction scores? Are we seeing those increase, decrease? What's the feedback that we're getting from our guests? And then, we make decisions based on those two buckets, basically, to understand if it's a return.
Fascinating. Chris, do you want to add to that?
No, I agree 100% with Angela. We look at a number of different things. Obviously, the revenue associated with the upsell or the offer that we might put forward, guest satisfaction is so critical, but also loyalty, and how we can drive new levels of loyalty and engage somebody in our loyalty program. And that gives us the vehicle to go back out and market with more personalized offers and to get them to come back into the system. So there are a number of different ways to look at it beyond the actual transactional volume of that spa or that F&B credit.
All right, so obviously Chris is looking at things a little bit differently since he's with a brand, in this case, Sonesta, which has got different sub-brands under it. But Rob, you're dealing as a management company with a lot of different brands. So does that change your philosophy on how you're dealing with different brands versus maybe different property types? And again, that leisure component at the resorts versus a business center, hotel, all those kind of things.
I mean, obviously, then each brand needs to be treated separately. But here at Stonebridge, we have a chief strategy officer, Adam Snow, and we look at the things that are important to us as far as what we want to track, and then we try to put 4 or 5 KPIs behind each area so that we can measure what success looks like. From a technology, we just entered into a new program with a company called Fresh Air that tests the rooms molecularly for smoke and marijuana smoke and pet urine, so that not only can we charge the guest with a lot of backup if they did smoke, we'll know how many cigarettes they smoke because it's molecular, not just sensory. But also we can then sell the guest room 100% smoke free to the guest that doesn't want to be exposed to that. And then we put KPIs behind that so that we have targets on, what we want to collect per occupied room, and also how we want to increase GSI as it comes to the room quality. So, you have to measure what you expect, and it's great strategically to approach these things so that you don't just wait till the end of the day and see what the results are. You know what you're expecting.
Right. That's really important too. Yes, Jen.
Really quickly, just going
Take
back
time.
ROI of the upsells, just from a practical standpoint, my advice to our audience would be there's multiple factors, as everyone said. I mean, one of them is, comparing what you used to do prior to the technology installation with upsells versus, is there really an increase there or not? But also the team member component is an important one because lots and lots of properties, maybe every property has had an incentive program in place for your team members. So if your front desk agent does it directly, has this wonderful conversation with someone and upsells them into a different room category, for incremental revenue, typically, there might be some kind of payout related to that as an extra bonus. So I also just want to caution everyone, technology is fantastic. There's so many great things about it, but make sure you're not alienating your team members when you implement it. Don't forget about kind of how you used to handle it.
That's a really great point there too. Donnie, maybe you have an answer for this question. Maria Escobar is saying, but do people really want to get promotions during their vacations? And how do you make sure it doesn't sound too salesy, but more we're thinking about you, we appreciate you, here's your coupon type of style?
It's really you got to be really tactful about it, right? And it's got to be the right time at the right place with the right message.
Yeah.
This is something that in the past was incredibly difficult to do. I'll give you a for example of how we're kind of looking at it. So because we're tracking not only like what buttons they're pressing, but we're also looking at where they're walking, right, in real time. So for instance, one of the things we can do is I can see somebody walk by the spa 3 times. That 4th time they walk in because they're not going in the spa, I can say, hey, seaweed wraps are 25% off because I know they like seaweed wraps. And you wouldn't believe the amount of conversion that you get. But it's when they're standing there in front of the spa, right? They're thinking about it, but that's just a little nudge you got to give them, and they're happy about it. So it's really knowing what the guest is, not only what they prefer, but what are they doing in the moment. I mean, my wife, when she's with 2 kids and we're staying at the Kalahari Resort and they're leaving the water park and the kids are nuts and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That's not the time to hit her up. Hey, would you like to get, ice cream for the kids? She's just trying to get them to the room, right? So really, and it's also, maybe that is the time you hit them up for a drink. Would you like a drink later, right?
Yeah. Jennifer?
Or she needs a spa treatment after that.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But it's being tactful, and it's not being like it's basically find out what the guest likes, use all that other data you have, and then just be tactful about like what time of day you're delivering the message, what the message is, where are they at, it's just knowing those things that really make it effective and not intrusive. Also, make it opt-in. Like if they want the human experience, let them have the human experience, let it be their decision. One of the things that we do is we ask for people's location data and services when they go to hit the wayfinding. Because at that moment, we know they're trying to get somewhere and they will gladly give it. If you have ever downloaded an app before and all of a sudden it says, hey, give us full access to your folders and your phones and your pictures. It's like, no, whoa, coming on strong. But if you tailor that message when they're wanting to use their camera or when they're wanting to go somewhere, well, that's the appropriate time to surface those messages because you're trying to do something and you need access to that in order to do it. And they will gladly do it.
That's a great point, and that's where technology could really help you, is understanding the psychological mindset that someone might be in, so you can hit them with the right offer again at the right time in the right spirit of improving their experience. And Donnie, your Kalahari observation was really good. I'm here at a major Las Vegas property, and I saw a mom negotiating with a kid in a wet bathing suit, saying, "We'll change your bathing suit, then we'll get the cane." So, I know exactly what you're talking about over there. All right, so another person says, "Hey, guests plan their trips in advance. They're emotionally primed to spend, and mobile apps meet them at this stage of convenience, exclusivity, personalized incentive, eliminating friction compared to waiting in the check-in line. Will these applications increase the percentage of guests booking the service before arrival?" And I'm going to guess this appeals more towards a resort-style property than anything else. Angela, you want to kick this one off?
Absolutely. What we see is at the time of booking, and we're very reservations focused, direct booking focused. I think we all probably want that mix. What we see is at the time of booking, even for a resort, they're not really ready to book all of the ancillary right at that moment. It's like, check off the room, we've got that. We're coming in 30 days. But what we see is like that window, maybe 2 weeks or a week prior to arrival. That's really when, they've been dreaming, they've been on the websites, they've been exploring, and now they're ready to buy. So I think, understanding again, and it's going to vary if it's an urban hotel or a resort or a brand, it's, all things are going to be different. But in general, that's when they're ready to buy. So that's when we're trying to serve up that pre-arrival planning. And we try to approach it with using our tools, using our technology, but also that human element to really understand through a conversation what they want, and then serving up the right offer. And so for us, it's a little bit different, but it's like within that first, like 7 to 14 days prior to arrival.
That makes sense. So in figuring this out, if you offer things too far in advance, and they won't do
They're
it,
not
is that right? Does that mean then they shut off, or are you able to approach them again that
Yeah,
you
we're
were queue
able.
before with the fresh mind? Okay.
Yeah, and I think again, it goes back to just understanding your guests, right? So this using the CRM to understand when they buy, when they reserve, all of those data points, and that's really, that's when we want to contact them. For me, it might be 2 days. For somebody else, it might be 7. So when is that optimal time?
Also, I'd like to say, you guys out there, kudos to you. I'm getting so many amazing questions, which I absolutely love. This next one, also from an anonymous attendee. You guys could tell me who you are, because they're such a good question. They want to know, what's one recent campaign or initiative, digital or on property, that delivered unexpected results in guest satisfaction or revenue uplift, and what made it work? Anyone want to jump in there? I don't want to just call on anybody in particular on this one. Yeah. Donnie, you want to give us an example while they're processing this?
Um, you know, uh, One of the things that we've seen, which is really, really kind of interesting, is we've actually seen when before, because I kind of want to attribute that to behavior with the
Right.
guests, right? So people who are pre-planning, right? We've seen a lot of people use the websites before they're getting on site. But what happens when they get on site? They stop going on the website. They're on their mobile devices. And a lot of the campaigns in which we've seen a lot of success have to do with spur of the moment at that, like that person's making a decision at that time, right? So for instance, one of the ways to get the people to the restaurants has always been the happy hours. But we've actually taken a step further where we have the ability to geo-fence outside of the resorts. So we can actually see where your guests are when they're not on your resort. And if we see that they're downtown and they're by pubs or they're by cocktail lounges, we can pre-seed a message that when they step into that area and at 4 o'clock, they get a message that says, by the way, we have a great happy hour back at the resort. And if you come there, first drinks on us, things of that nature. So it's not even campaigns that are happening within the resort, but it's also understanding what people are doing outside and then bringing them back, right? Bringing them back there. And part of that also has to do with discovery. it's 30% of the people who use our app at Wailea say that one of the things they love about the app is they didn't know that this stuff existed at the resort. They were unaware that even these specials were happening, or that these restaurants were here. And it's also just educating them, where I think that also becomes the discovery part. Also, believe it or not, you think with all the signage you can put up and all the reminders and stuff, people pay attention, but they are buried in their devices. That's right. That is another thing we found to be incredibly effective, is letting people know, by the way, this exists here. I see that you're at these cocktail lounges. We have a great happy hour at this place, and appetizers are half off, or things of that nature. And they go, I didn't know that, right? I didn't realize that, right? So I think that's part of it that's also been really, really effective for the way we've been doing our messaging with our clients.
That's really interesting. That's really shocking and surprising, but not shocking or surprising in the slightest bit at the same time, right? So Rob, that's really interesting, because you're potentially missing out on opportunities, but by shifting to a digital strategy, you may be opening previously closed doors.
Yeah, I was going to bring up geofencing. I'm not an expert on it, but I was just meeting last week with the team, and they told me that they were geofencing demand drivers in the market. For example, wedding venues, so that folks are going there, all of a sudden they're going to get an ad for a hotel, knowing that they're a potential customer in the future if they're looking at a wedding venue, or other demand drivers, even other properties. I was kind of surprised that geofencing was that available, but it has been very successful for us.
That's really important. I think that's going to be a really important future technology. And by the way, Melissa Jones says she loves geofencing. So yeah, we totally get that. Chris, how are you thinking about that going forward? Because you've got a lot of different properties, from economy brands to luxury brands.
We think a lot about the customer journey and the customer life cycle. And, back to the previous question, we've seen one of our strongest performers is our pre-arrival email strategy, delivered through mobile and through push notifications on our app. And Donnie, not to jump on the Hawaii bandwagon, but just a quick example, we've got a great property in Kauai, and a real strong performer, and it adds to the guest experience, right, is a signature luau experience that we deliver that prior to arrival. And then on site, it's things like late checkout or flight bites and things that add value to the guest stay while they're there. So, Glenn, we think a lot about the journey and how and when and where we engage our guests along the journey. We have to deliver that experience and that connection on site as well. And so those are some of the things we think about. But, Glenn, broader base, Rob talked a lot about the importance of mobile and mobile apps. I will tell you that, for us, it's significant. The impact is significant. Today at Sonesta, mobile traffic is over 60% of our total traffic. Right. Mobile push notifications are now a top 10 source of all of our traffic. And when we think of the app, today the app is principally a wrapper and a device for our loyalty members, our most valuable members. And we see engagement of our app where conversion rates are 4 times higher on the app than they are through mobile web or through our website. Wow. So, I agree 100% with Rob. We've got to double down and how we drive engagement of these mobile tools and mobile app to enhance the guest experience, but at the same time, leverage them in a way where we can drive that ancillary revenue and deliver personalized offers, whether it's the luau experience or, the happy hour reminders or, the upgrades, and deliver it at the right time.
Yeah, I totally love that. You said something really cool, flight bites. I like the idea of selling them something as they're going out the door, which services a need that they have. And then when they leave the property, they're actually still thinking about you and the property, which is a really cool thing to do.
Yep.
That's pretty awesome. All right. So this is a great question. I don't know if anyone's going to actually want to answer it, but maybe I'll answer it myself. How do you balance offers without seeming like you're nickel and diming guests. Example, charging for early check-in. And the reason why I brought that up is here in Las Vegas, I'm hearing a lot of things where they're charging for you to check in early, and then people don't want to spend the extra money, and then they wind up having to wait on a 2-hour line to check in because everyone shows up at 4 o'clock. Now, I know none of you guys have this particular problem, but how are you thinking about balancing the benefits of this without coming off, seeming at like a negative Nelly? And Donnie, does this go to, again, hitting people at the right place at the right time when they want to hear offers as opposed to not?
Well, I also think that the messaging isn't always upsell. It's also just having a conversation. I mean, it's also
Great.
storytelling, right? Not every single message needs to be something you can buy. Some
Right.
of it is just like, making people aware of, hey, there's free activities for the kids at the pool happening at 2 o'clock here, because that they have a family, that they have kids, but it's, you have another level of opportunity to have a conversation with your guest. And so use that power wisely. What is that? With great power comes great responsibility, I believe Spider-Man was told. It's the same thing. This is a really powerful tool, but it doesn't have to be bashing them over the head all the time with, buy this thing. It's not the ads that you're driving by on when you're on the highway. This is a communication tool. And and it is a look, it's also one other thing I want to bring up that we're kind of circling around. This is also becoming an expectation that's driven from outside forces. If you look at the mobile strategy of like Best Buy, Domino's, like all these big brands where people are used to using a mobile app to transact, to, know when their food's going to be ready. I mean, I was just realizing every fast food place you go to, it has a little canned message. Are you using the mobile app today? Right. Well, there's a reason why they're doing this, right? It's because they are trying to collect all of this data. I think it can get to a point of saturation that can be a little abrasive. And I think for every brand, having a genuine, articulate conversation through digital is a way to build that loyalty, to maybe get some information from the guests that's not necessarily trying to sell them something on the spot, but just getting to know them better and build that relationship. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity with this if used responsibly, right?
For sure. And going back to your fast food example, one particular major company is finding that through their app, people are ordering more than they would have had before because it gives them an opportunity to say, hey, do you want to pair it with this? Do you want to do that? And then the impulse buying takes over. But Donnie, what is that?
I was just saying, away on one thing. You talked about, originally resort fees. They were kind of thrown on the customer. We're going to bundle all these things, and you're going to pay for it. And as they are kind of slowly going away because of transparency and rate parity and whatnot, we're finding a lot of success in package bundles. Going and instead of making it a forced resort fee, letting the customer choose. We're before you come in advance, you can get parking, breakfast, and blah 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 if you pay X, and we're finding that they're doing it, and they're opting in on it. So the other thing that's really affecting behavior is giving them the ability, if they buy it, to cancel it. Say, hey, you can buy this today, and before you check in, no problem if you want to cancel it. Folks are opting in, and the cancellation rates are super super small. So
Right, because it gives them the confidence to go ahead and pull the trigger, and then they just decide that they're into it and they're not going to give it back. Where the other cases, they probably would have waited and not have done it at all. Donnie, I got to go back to this. This is an important question. When you mentioned wayfinding, this person says he or she thought they immediately thought of digital maps. Can these tools also support accessibility? I have a family member in a wheelchair.
Yeah, actually, in our platform, we have the ability that if you would like to have an accessible route, yeah, check the box, and then it will only take you in places where wheelchairs can go through. There is the ability to have a voice speak to you and tell you turn by turn directions. It's no different than, I mean, think about Waze, or think about like, Apple Maps and what they've done as far as, hey, I don't want to go on expressway. I just want to take the scenic route. Okay. And these are all things that, again, we're already doing. Now this is becoming, an expectation, and it's also becoming available for resorts, for hotels. I mean, even for urban, saying, hey, there's a great restaurant down the street that you should check out. We have a deal with them. Show them your hotel card, right? And you get 10% off a glass of wine. I mean, all of those opportunities of not just navigating on site, but also outside and making it more things accessible, right?
I think that's great. And Donnie, actually, another person asked, how can you use offsite vendors like restaurants or activities to increase revenues? Do any of you folks have any experience with that? Maybe partnering with local museums or whatever. Angela?
We actually have partnered with I don't know when I give away the name, but
You don't have to.
we basically are able to offer both on property experiences as well as offsite experiences through our partnership. And for the guests, the end user, they can create their entire itinerary, and they don't know, right? They don't necessarily know what our agreement is, but it expands the offering and it curates a more experiential guest stay. And it's been extremely successful, especially in, one of our resorts is in southern Utah. There's a lot to do in southern Utah, lots of outdoor adventures. And so it's really been able to build our brand and build that guest experience.
I love that. All right. Believe it or not, we're getting towards the end already, and I want to give each of you an opportunity for some final thoughts over there. So, Jennifer, let's start with you. Any final thoughts, and what do you think our audience should be taking away from this conversation today?
Yeah, I think my final thoughts are more around kind of where we sit, I guess, in the industry, again, with the independents and boutiques. We're really trying to get our arms around kind of what's out there, whether it's a full scale solution or something that we can just plug and play. I would encourage all of our kind of hotel industry people to, do your research, pilot test things, beta test things, see what is the best fit for you. The absolute worst thing is when the technology doesn't work. People are pretty much expecting technology now. They're expecting to be able to really interact on their mobile device nonstop when they're staying with you. Humans are not, I also want to say humans are not going away. There's always going to be humans in our property, and there always should be. We're the hospitality industry at the end of the day. But embracing technology is a good thing. But I would say tiptoe into it and try it out and make sure it works for you and your guests.
And I'll add, don't be afraid to try something and fail at it. Just do it quickly and move on, because unless you experiment, you're never going to be able to make those bold steps forward that you need to be more successful. Chris, how about you, sir?
Well, it's been a great conversation today, Glenn. We talked a lot about our tech stack and mobile engagement and mobile apps. All of these things are really informed by data and a deep understanding of guest and guest profile. But really that allows us to deliver personalized experience that enhance personalized messages that enhance the guest experience. And ultimately, as hoteliers, that's what it's about. How do we drive new levels of guest experience, which in turn leads to profitability and repeat business and things like that. Certainly we've almost made it a full hour without talking about AI. I think AI is going to change the landscape in a lot of different ways, but it gets back to how can we leverage AI that adapts to our guests' needs and preferences, that understands their needs and wants to deliver those personalized messages and personalized experiences. So, yeah, just a number of things. To me, it's all about understanding our guest, delivering personalized experiences and messages, and enhancing the guest experience.
Thank you. And I want everybody to know the reason why we didn't say AI all this entire session is because I think we're at a point now where there's a fundamental understanding that everything we do going forward is going to be able to leverage that particular type of technology. So it's not really moving the conversation forward to say use AI. So we tried to get into more tactics that will ultimately do that to give you guys some value over there. Donnie, how about you, sir?
I think the thing that I want to encourage people to do is two things. Number one, The customers who are most successful with us are the ones who come to us with the problem, not with the tech. Don't start with the tech. Don't start with the function.
Don't look for a problem with a technological solution.
That is exactly right.
Find the problem, then create a solution, Donnie, right?
Yeah, like everybody, I've been very fortunate in the last couple of customers I worked with. They came to me with, here's a problem we have. People are getting lost on our property, or man, we have a big push to generate more revenue in our ancillary services, or whatever it is. And once we start there, that's where we can flourish. And then we can get into, okay, how are we going to solve this? How are we going to accomplish this? Right.
Yep.
And then the second part, which is going to sound contradictory to what I just said, I encourage people to go out there and educate themselves about what is possible. I think the hospitality industry doesn't realize how far things have come and really what is possible. You know, the geofencing we're talking about, it is way more sophisticated now and way more available and easy to do than people even realize. And, you know, I think to your point, Glenn, crawl, walk, run, fly, right? Dip your toes in it. Try something. Try a little something with it. Maybe it works. Maybe it doesn't. You adjust. You keep moving forward, right? You keep pushing it forward. Don't feel like you have to do it all at once, right? So like educate yourself and really think about what is the thing I want to solve here, and then give me a call.
That's great. And my philosophy in life when it comes to anything that I need to do in my career or my personal life is add one more thing, figure it out, incorporate it into your routine, and then go on to something else. That way it won't seem as overwhelming and impossible to achieve. Angela, what about you?
I love all of the comments so far. I agree with all of it. I think for us, it's using technology as a foundation for effective guest conversations, and it's one tool that's going to create that overall experience. And so, I don't think team members are going away. I think it might look different, but we will always rely on that push and pull and that balance to truly understand our guests and really create that, overall just happy guest experience when you stay at our hotels.
That's right. One way to continue to unlock guest spend is to get your associates out of the stuff that they don't want to do, that boring stuff, and allow them to connect better with people.
Yes.
When you connect with people, they're going to buy more, right, Angela?
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, Rob, take it home for us, brother.
You know, you almost said my first part, and that is, at Stonebridge, we like to use technology to solve for the mundane so that our associates can spend more time enhancing the guest stay and not doing mundane things that'll help retention and it'll help the guest experience. The other thing that we're spending a lot of time talking about is making sure that our properties understand more than ever we have to up our game, where our guests used to go online and search TripAdvisor and Google. Now they just go to ChatGPT and say, this is where I'm going. These are the 5 things that are important to me. Where should I stay? And, they get an entire report. And if we're not there, we're going to be left behind. So it's going to be easier and easier, which it should be, for the guests to make choices. And we need to make sure we're at the forefront of that from a social reputation standpoint.
Yeah, you got that right. So what a great conversation we had today. I wish we could go on for another hour because there's so much stuff out here. I want to thank all of you out there for participating. It was so great to hear all of the stuff that you need to master. And thank you to our incredible panel for making sure that our audience really was educated today. So I want to thank you all. So for our good friends at Hotel Business, we got Jennifer, Angela, Rob, Donnie, Chris, I'm Glenn. Thanks so much. And hey, let's get that great picture. So let's all smile for Christina and the crew backstage. We'll see you all next time. See you later.
Thanks, Glenn.
See you later, guys. Bye-bye.